So last time we were happily looking at the virtuous mental factors, and we will proceed with that. But before we do, I thought if we just take a few moments of quiet internal reflection, so adopting meditation mode, which is not attached to a device. So I like the idea of, the idea of going into meditation and just like dropping or, putting everything down. It's quite freeing. Okay, so take a moment to bring your awareness inwards, just the natural rhythm of your breath, to bring your mind into the present moment. Of course, we're here physically, but the mind coming into the space of the body. So rare for our body and mind to be together in this. We're very serious Dharma practitioners and we do that a lot. But the rest of the time, the mind seems to be going haywire. But here we have the opportunity just settling your awareness on the natural rhythm of the breath in your body. And so this teaching of the Buddha was not for no purpose. It was actually to enable us to observe different mental factors arising in the mind, whether they be omnipresent mental factors, whether they be object ascertaining, whether they be virtuous, whether they be non-virtuous, whether they be neutral. In other words, entering into our mind lab, the laboratory of the mind. So just in the next few minutes, from this state of a curious observer, see if you can detect in any moments of mind any different mental factors arising. So sometimes when you start to shine the light of awareness, they go and hide in corners out of sight. But just allow yourself neutrally to observe the comings and goings of your mind. Whatever arises, there's no rights, there's no wrongs. It's simply inviting our mind to become more aware of its workings. So for a couple of minutes now. Okay, just bring your awareness back into the compound. So sometimes we might be aware of a sort of agitation of the mind or meandering of the mind or some sort of continuous blah blah, like a white noise or another color noise, whatever color you want it to be, or nothing at all. So I'm not asking what has arisen, but we are able to observe something was happening in the mind. Something was happening, right? So
what's referring to
a thought, an emotion, an image, a story, a movie, replay of a movie. So some awareness of things going on there. So this is our training, is to actually identify what those things are. Like, for example, and to decide you want to follow that train of thought or whatever analogy we want to use, that thought, or actually go, actually, that's not beneficial to me. That's the one I've been trying to work on and want to keep working on. So, you know, the story where I don't remember the whole story, but I'm sure people know this. Somebody walks down the street and falls in the pothole. And then another time, next time, they walk down the street and fall in the pothole. Yeah. And then the next time they go, oh, I'll go around. And the next time they say, I'll choose another street. Right. This is what we're choosing, another street. You know, when there's a film that when I was working in the prison project, the Dharma brothers, which was about introducing Vipassana into a prison in the US. And I just like this one woman there whose son was killed. And she said this sort of thing, like she's walking past the street. And she says, I choose not go down that street anymore. I have no need, you know. Still get goosebumps thinking about it. But of course, her choice is triggered by that strong emotional response to. And so just, you know, it's helpful that these, as we go through these, it's not just to be theoretical, it's to recognize, oh, I have that. And I think what of course, we become aware of the negative states of mind that we want to work on, and that feels really hard. But another aspect, and here we're looking at the virtuous states of mind, is to actually dwell in those. If we're aware of, oh, joy just arose, go for it. Don't try and grasp at it, but enjoy it while it lasts. Right. And that way you're enhancing that quality, that habit, that quality. You're bringing that awareness to it. So anytime, whether you're meditating, whether you're walking around, whatever, and really see those positive states of mind, feel those positive states of mind, see if you can linger there so that we're developing that muscle of the mind, you know, is very, very helpful to do. And
it's easier.
It's easier in here because there's a lot of positive vibes. There's less distractions to other things. There's a little bit more predictability, although not everything's predictable. There's so many, you're with Dharma buddies. We know that we're all not of the one mind, but we're all like-minded and so forth. So there's so many contributing factors by being in a positive environment. And then if you were to go, you know, sort of on pilgrimage to where like the Buddha meditated or where Guru Rinpoche meditated, and then the air is so still that you never want to leave. But we do leave. You never want to. It's so exquisite, you know. So we can attain these refined states of mind. And yes, we look for the conditions here. Like I lead meditation at the university at Curtin once a week. And when I was there the other day, because they're having a break now, semester break and all of this, and I'm having a break. And they just decided, well, they could just go in themselves into the meditation room. And I did point out that use it whenever you want. One of the guys comes here for meditation And so he's got almost his permanent position set up there in the meditation room. So he just pops in because and of course, the quality of that association, oh, this is the space in which I meditate, and then he brings along his mates, and then, this is where so they're all going to come together. But also, as I pointed out, if people aren't using this space, the university are going to say, why have we got this meditation room that nobody uses? So I'm like, please use it. Yeah. So like that. Okay, so we can find those or choose those environments that are conducive for us, and choose those ones we want to avoid. Now, I'm ordained. I can't remember the last time I went into a pub, but it would have been to go to the toilet. If some desperate time way back in the past where I couldn't find one in the public, outside, well, it is public house, isn't it? But, in the park or whatever, they were locked. And it's sort of like you tentatively go into. So there are places I choose not to. I'm not saying pubs are bad places necessarily, but not the sort of place I want to hang out. So we choose that, right? We choose that. And while we've got the external conducive circumstances, even it can be the best possible place, come into the Gompa, still we've got to deal with our mind. That's the thing we have to deal with. Okay, so have we got the document good to go? Conscientiousness, that's what we're up to. This is where we're looking at these virtuous mental factors. And so conscientiousness, as it says, cultivation of virtuous qualities is what we're just talking about, within abiding in non-attachment. So this mind of non-desire for stuff, for new experiences, as Lama Zopa Rinpoche said, we've tasted everything there is to taste in Samsara. They might rebrand it, but we've done it all. No need to go looking for new taste. Enjoy what you do have while it lasts. So abiding in, dwelling your mind in, drenching your mind in, non-attachment, non-hatred. Imagine that, the absence of hatred, the absence of anger. We talked about that last week. And non-ignorance. So we're going to unpack the whole ignorance, but that having worked on our mind enough to have a working understanding, let's say, of the wisdom of emptiness, even we haven't realized it directly, perceptually, enough to go, merely label bum, merely label bum, merely label bum. Delete. One of my favorite words, delete. Wish it was that easy, just go bing and all the obscurations are gone. Wouldn't that be great? As well as the effort. So we talk about joyous effort when we talk about the 6 perfections, as well as joyous effort that guards the mind against contaminations, against the negative states of mind. So, of course, we have the reference to that with the 8 verses, Geshe-Lango Tangpa, the 8 verses, vigilant, and I know there's a new translation, vigilant. So this mind of awareness, shining the light of awareness, the moment a delusion arises in my mind, I confront and avert it without delay. The very moment it arises, well, probably by the time we observe it, it's probably arisen for a while. But why do we want to confront and avert it without delay? 1, we don't want it to hijack our mind, to take us over. 2, it's related to karma, isn't it? Like if I have these one moment by another moment of negative states of mind, not only am I building up or giving way to those negative habits, but also the karmic fallout of that, which Atisha understood very well. And as we know, that when Tisha observed a negative thought arising in his mind, a toxic emotion arising. If he was riding his horse, he'd get off his horse, place a stupa there, and immediately do Vajrasattva practice. Then we might not have a horse or a stupa available to us right at that moment, but it's surprising how when you're out and about and your mind goes to negativity, that you can do, if you're familiarized with Vajrasattva practice, you can do a sort of mini Vajrasattva, just stop still for a while, maybe go and have a coffee and do Vajrasattva. Invite Vajrasattva to the coffee shop. We can do, or we can just go to sleep if it hasn't hijacked our mind yet. And then we also have the example, Geshe Ben-Gilgal. So he was, I love Geshe Ben-Gilgal's stories, the stories about. So if you're aware in, is one of these stories at least is in the Pavanka Rinpoche, Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, where so he's visiting. So he was a thief formerly, changed his ways, met the Dharma, became a Geshe, did the hard yards, and he was visiting this house, and he was left alone in the kitchen, and his mind went to the tea caddy. Because I remember that because, that might be my mind going to the tea caddy. Go to the tea caddy. And he, not only his mind, he put his hand out. And then he called out, thief, thief, there's a thief in the house, there's a thief in the house. And they all come running, where's the thief, where's the thief? He goes, here's the thief. And then another story, again, it's about this conscientiousness and this, what was this one? Oh, that's right, his sponsor. So he had a sponsor coming, to the sponsor, the one who makes offerings to him and so forth. So as he did, so he put out the most glorious offerings on his altar, and he was very pleased with himself. And then he realized it was a mind of pride. So his sponsor hasn't arrived yet. And he threw dirt on it. I don't know what happened when his sponsor arrived. Well, I'm not sponsoring you anymore. So counteracting the pride. We might not go to that extreme. We might. But we could think, I'll throw the dirt on my pride. That would work, wouldn't it? Yeah. So this conscientiousness is the basis for us establishing all mundane, worldly, and supramundane, let's say Dharma, success. So it's a basis of being successful. And of course, we want to look at this particularly in our Dharma practice. Guarding the mind against contaminations. So we're talking about before the contaminations arise, but also, as with those examples, even they've arisen, this awareness, this conscientiousness, you could say this mindfulness that goes, whoa, not going there. So the quicker we can do that, the more easy it is to let go of that intrusion in the mind. Okay. So the next one, equanimity. So this word equanimity gets used in slightly different ways. Equanimity and evenness of mind. So it's abiding in a sort of state of calm, a neutral state, mental quiescence. I like that in Pavanka Rinpoche's mental quiescence, spontaneous abiding discordant with the afflictions. This is the language that you use, when you go on study basic program, master's program. Notice I said when you go on to study those. That they always talk about the discordant class, In other words, the ones that are out of sync with reality. So the afflictions. So it's not allowing the opportunity for those afflictions to arise. Just seeing, I guess Tashi says. Yeah, a stable mind free of excitement or dullness. So when we're developing shamatha, these are the two main obstacles, apart from laziness, and these are the laziness that we don't get on the cushion in the first place. But these are, when we do start to develop our practice, the two is a sort of coarse level of excitement or dullness, and then going down to more subtle levels of those arising. So that's how it's generally referred to here, although we do have the other sense of equanimity, which is regarding all beings as equal when we do particularly 7-point cause and effect and so forth. All beings as equal. In what way are we all equal? Human, non-human, and so forth. None of us wants to suffer, even the slightest discomfort, and we all want happiness. We might be looking for it in the wrong places, but in that way we're equal. So, but here it's more this mind of letting it abide in equanimity. Sort of placing. And, sometimes I've heard Geshe say that, just let it abide in equanimity. In other words, when you're caught up with something, it's just let it be there and don't let it disturb your mind. Okay. No.
Quite some skill, isn't
it? It's quite some skill. I mean, talking about the development of shamatha, and I think I've used this example a few times, that, the experiments done with meditators, Mingyur Rinpoche, Matthieu Ricard, and so forth, where they've had the electrodes on them to see whether, what brain activity is going on, or actually sometimes the whole body. And the fact that example from like Matthieu Ricard, when they had the simulated, where they said, okay, you go into deep meditation, and then we're going to have a simulation of a gunshot. It'll come randomly. You won't know when it's coming. And then they had a control group. And so he had these electrodes all over him. And when that gunshot came, he not one slightest muscle flinched. Nothing. That's abiding in equanimity. That's truly abiding in equanimity. Why could he do that? Because he put in the hard yards to gain that equanimous mind. Whereas people in the control group, same instruction. And then you had images of them going like this, even it's simulated. So it's like, which we don't want to get rid of the survival instinct, where in reality, if that was actually a gunshot, you're not going to sit there in meditative concentration. I'm just like, oh, that's fine. I can be in the middle of a war zone. Yeah, not for very long. So yeah, that it is achievable. I mean, what that demonstrates, it's achievable, this dwelling in this neutral state. You're neither craving or got a mind of aversion and so forth. And you just sort of abide in there. It's a very spacious state of mind. Okay. Non-harmfulness, or the lack of harm. A compassionate attitude included as part of non-hatred, which is patient, devoid of intention to injure, to do harm. So we know all the Buddha's teachings come down to what? Do no harm and subdue your mind. Because if you subdue your mind, you will do no harm. As the Dalai Lama has said, if all school children learn to meditate at an early age, within one generation, we would have world peace. So this is his mind of, as Gandhi said, ahimsa. Well, that's the Sanskrit for it. But, you know, made that a whole part of his ethos, to spread non-harmfulness, non-violence. And we live in a very violent world. Where does the violence come from? The mind of wanting to do harm. That's where it comes from. The mind of non-equanimity. So in relation to that, we have, you know, we can talk about, sure, we can talk, it is not just physical harm, is it? It's doing mental harm. Think about the harm we do to our own mind. Think about the self-criticism, self-judgment that we do to ourselves, let alone what we do to others, but to ourselves. We give ourselves a hard time, yes? It's true. Why? Because we're habituated to doing that. And so the mental, emotional harm, spiritual harm, cultural harm, you know, we can look at it in many different, from many different perspectives of do no harm, for having respect for all faiths, for all cultures, for all people, for all species. If we're doing no harm, as we know, we're avoiding killing the even teeniest tiny insect, which is rather tricky when we can't see them, but at least developing the conscientiousness, the mindfulness that develops our awareness that I'm not alone on this planet. Even in a sort of small, even in this gompa, there's many beings I can't see. You know, I saw it was a National Geographic, and they blew up the pores in the skin of the face and showed all the little beings living in the pores, because they showed them sitting in a living room and having cups of tea and watching the telly, and very cute. And it's just like, I never thought what beings might be living in the pores of my skin. Wow, there's a long way to go.
Gulliver's Travels.
Gulliver's Travels, or the little, yeah.
Yeah, when you see the big people and giants.
Yeah.
And their hands.
Full of little, yeah. See, maybe he was a scientist.
Oh.
Maybe he was a biologist.
And he was little. And he could look at the giant's hands. Yeah. And you could see all the pores and all the filth associated. You see the bacteria. I don't know, he didn't see the bacteria, but he saw the filth. Oh, not little people. More little people.
More little people.
Yeah, more little people. But not human people. So when he was in the land of the little people, he was a giant. Then he went to the land of the giants, and he was the little person. Yeah. So his perception was reversed. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? That's of Gulliver's Travel.
Before that.
Oh, non-harm. Non-harm. We're talking about non-harm. See, now you can read Gulliver's Travels and have a totally different perspective. It was interesting a few years back, the National Gallery of Victoria had a big reclining Buddha statue outside, and it had all little people crawling all over it or climbing over it as part of the, what do you call it? Artwork, yes, the art, thank you, installation artwork. And there was a lot of response from Buddhist organizations that this was being disrespectful to the Buddha. And because, it was brought to our awareness in the Australian Sangha Association. And then, are we going to write letters of protest or are we going to not, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, the Buddha wouldn't mind.
I don't think so.
I don't think the Buddha would mind. And I thought of Gulliver's Travels because I thought it's like the images I saw when I was reading that as a child of all the little people or the whatever. Yeah. Anyway.
What's the point of the artwork? Do you remember?
I have no idea. I didn't sort of delve into reading an artistic bio or anything like that. Got people's attention though, didn't it? Created controversy. Yeah. I don't know if that was an intention. Actually, another installation which I really liked was a big Buddha statue made. It was in, I think it was part of the Sydney Biennale. It was in one of the carriage works, if anybody's, anyway, in a big warehouse. We all went along. It was a Buddha statue made of all the incense ash gathered from numerous temples because it was huge. And then over time you see it sort of dissolving or, collapsing. It was fascinating. I just thought, what ideas people have.
Yeah.
So
Wonderful.
the Buddha statue itself, after being made from the ashes, started to dissolve.
Well, it started to sort of collapse. I don't know if that was intentional on part of the artist because you're sort of like, but it was just an interesting phenomenon to go and observe it, But even just having the idea, I want to.
So it's like a sandcastle or something. But
You didn't think of sandcastle though.
From
It
the
didn't make you
ashes.
think sandcastle. But yes, it was, yeah. But it was massive. It was
Dust is really fine. isn't it?
very fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Now I'm
impermanent.
just wondering what they might have.
I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know. Didn't ask that.
On the ashes.
Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Exactly. Impermanence. Impermanence at work. Yeah. So in relation to this, in non-harmfulness, we can look at the Buddha's teachings on the three higher trainings that, and even in the context of virtuous mental factors, because this 11, and you think, well, that's not comprehensive, it's not everything. So the three higher trainings, training in ethics, training in concentration, training in wisdom, that, in this aspect of non-harmfulness, the first thing is to train our actions and our speech to do no harm, right? And so the foundation for that is leading an ethical life. And of course, as a Buddhist, what do? We take refuge. We take the vows of restraint from killing, stealing, lying, sexual misconduct, and intoxicants. So that acts as a foundation for the whole path, really, this non-harmfulness, this ethics. And how profound is that in today's world? More and more profound when we look at all the, let's say, devaluing of ethics in the world. The medicine Buddha said, at the time of the 5 great degenerations, we'll be there. That's now. So, the more we engage with medicine Buddha practice, I remember this was some years ago, Geshe Zopo saying, medicine Buddha is the sutric practice for this time in the world. At the time of, degeneration of the body in terms of more and more body and mind, particularly the mind, but more and more ailments. Who heard of COVID a few years ago, and then bird flu before that, and whatever, all the SARS, and everything. More and more physical illnesses, and more mental diagnoses, and so forth, degeneration of the mind. You know, I thought, I mean, and maybe, you know, when I was young, I didn't have the awareness, but I just feel like now I seem to be like more and more aware of the amount of like serious mental illnesses. I'm not, of course, as the Buddha said, we're all mentally ill, you know, but serious mental illness that, you know, it's huge, such that we have all of those, like we have the act, belong, commit, and, you know, sort of raising awareness about mental health.
Driving around.
Yes. Oh, yes.
One night.
Yeah.
And we heard a bump. There were two lanes,
Mm.
and on the lane to our right, we heard a big bump, and we thought, oh, there's an accident.
Yeah.
But we soon realized it was no accident. The guy was actually
Deliberately.
angry at the car in front, and he bumped it, and then there was a chase. And the guy in front ran.
And the other one kept.
He turned right and went down the street. And this second vehicle chased after him.
And that's that with rage, the mind's been totally, you know, it's taken over. It is poison. You know, we talk about the poisonous minds, totally poison. You lose all rationality that says, I wonder if my insurance policy will cover this. Just one thought comes to mind, but, you know, there are many others. That lack of restraint, of not having learned how to restrain your behavior, right?
In the past, we've seen a road rage where they get upset because the car has overtaken them, and then they overtake, and then it's on, keep overtaking. But this time was actually physical harm to the car. He actually hit the car, and he was a big, massive.
Four-wheel drive behind the.
Well, I hope they got caught. That poor driver in the other car trying to get away.
Yeah.
It happens, yeah. So this is this increasing incidence that leads to world wars, you know. Well, it's a matter of scale, isn't it? You know, the uncontrolled mind does a lot of harm. So the training in ethics at the beginning, and then on that foundation, when we've sort of got things a little bit under control in terms of our behavior, is really drilling down to developing the concentration, developing the mindfulness, developing all these positive, virtuous states of mind. So you're not hijacked by whatever moment that was on the road. And you turn the even driving into your Dharma practice, not only not road rage, but then, you know, I remember I used to, quite some time ago, and I'd be playing some Dharma teachings about dealing with anger as I was driving. And just happened to be, I was playing that, just happened. And I was like, okay, so put this into practice on the road. You know, if you want to develop on the spiritual path, give way in the traffic in Sydney. So rather than road rage as the person overtaking you, let them come in. And then I noticed over time, when you put that deliberate awareness, then suddenly you're seeing the aggro on the person, and it's like, please come in, don't have a heart attack in front of me. Like, you know, you develop your compassion, you develop your awareness of what's going on for them. But that's over time. But it's a good way, you know, the road is a good place to practice. I mean, anywhere's a good place to practice, really.
But then when you allow someone to come in and don't say thank you, get upset.
Don't have any expectations they're going to say thank you. I mean, when I started this, my first step was to let one car in and go, okay, that's my good deed done for the day.
And just come back to you later on when someone lets you.
Even they don't say thank you. I mean, I find it, you know, sort of like the smile factor, or, you know, sort of, if somebody smiles back, that's a bonus, right?
Just don't
Even they don't smile, it's okay. I smiled at them, and whether they connected with that or not at any level, that's okay. But it's good for my practice, right? It's the same, giving way in the traffic.
Say thank you. Normally you would acknowledge, right?
Yeah.
Thumbs up or something, but there was no thumbs up.
I give a wave of thank you, just, you know, when people are just obeying the law here, where, you know, we've got this, as they're called, traffic calming devices. Nothing calming about those devices, but it does slow you down, and just, you've got to give way. So they're just regularly giving way. You know, you do a little wave, even though, because you both slow down, it's a good opportunity to connect, right? Many things. Okay, so the higher training, yes, then in concentration, so that we can develop that exquisite focused mind, that we can have that awareness in every moment, develop this mind of equanimity and so forth. And on that foundation, the development of the wisdom mind that doesn't get upset when they don't say thank you, or I would get upset if somebody bashed in the back of me. It's such an inconvenience. And they're probably not going to pay the bill. Right? Yeah. So this is common foundation for all traditions. We could, you know, that very first teaching of the Buddhism of Four Noble Truths, that, you know, we can also unpack that in terms of virtuous qualities in relation to the Eightfold Noble Path, you know, right intention, right action, right speech, right conduct, right livelihood, right concentration, mindfulness, and so forth, and developing the right view. So, and, you know, right effort, joyous effort. So we can go further into unpacking the virtuous states of mind. It's not like, oh, I mean, there's only 11. I mean, bucket loads that are more in our nature than the disturbing states of mind. So we always use that analogy of like the water that gets polluted, and then the water gets muddy and so forth, by the afflicted states of mind. But we can use a purifier. We can purify our water. We can purify our mind. I'm about to go overseas, and one of my friends we met the other day, who were traveling together, and she bought one of those water bottles with the purifier inside, which I remember I've had in the past, and I was like, no, I'm going to get bottled water. I don't want any contaminations in there. I don't know that I trust that in India. Oh, I'll get ones with a very tight, unsealed, and just, well, hope for the best, I suppose. You know. Anyway. Okay, so then we get on to what we've been avoiding so far: the afflicted states of mind, the negative states of mind, the destructive states of mind, the root afflictions we start with. And so we have alluded to these, obviously more than alluded, as we've gone along. So this mind of attachment, and if we say more, perceives a contaminated thing. When it says contaminated thing, we're not talking about the polluted water, though we might be. We're talking about anything in samsara. because anything in samsara is contaminated in terms of, we talk about our aggregates being those of contaminated aggregates, that they're generated by all these wrong views. So that's what the context is here when we hear contaminated. To be attractive by way of its own entity means from its own side. The chocolate is delicious from its own side. No, I say it's not. Not for this body, right? If it was from its own side, that would pervade. So I heard that one of the worst things you can do is give dogs chocolate, correct?
Poison.
It's poisonous. I was staying with friends in Victoria one Easter, and we went out and they'd left all their Easter eggs on their bed and came back. There was only wrappers left, and one he wasn't actually very sick, but he was very bloated. I mean, he might have been a bit sick. I was surprised. It was just like, you didn't find a dead dog. You didn't find a dog you had to suddenly take to the vet. It was just like, you're not supposed to like that. Well, it's like that for all of us. Sometimes we can't resist those things that we know are toxins for us. Isn't that true? Yeah. Okay. So the mind of attachment. Because of the exaggeration, because of exaggerating the objects appeal, it becomes an object, this mind of discontent, that the mind of craving, of grasping, of wanting, of desire, of just like, and then we have that. And for a certain amount of time, shorter or longer, we're very happy. But what happens? That fades. So then I've got to look for another fix, and another one, and another one, and another one. And they fade, and they fade, and they fade. That's what that, does. Or we've got it, and we have the fear of losing it. So, I've got the brand new car or brand new house or whatever, and now I've got to insure the thing, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The fear of losing whatever, And so check up in our own mind, how much we either live in fear of losing, or how the mind before gaining that object of desire is discontent, agitated by that desire. Yeah. Are we aware of that? Or is it just, no, I've got to have it?
I read something a year ago about, the microbiome in your system.
Yes.
And made up of different sets of bacteria. And one theory is that when you have a craving, it's because you did not feed that particular
Yes,
bacteria.
but didn't feed the bacteria.
And
yeah.
so the bacteria sets up, or however they do it, for the human to feel a craving. And it could be chocolates, it could be
anything.
Sweet.
Yes.
Is that
anybody else had that experience? Because I've had that experience, awareness of that experience. We all had that experience, but awareness of it. So when I first radically changed my diet to be gluten-free, right? And I went off a lot of foods. Initially, I had a very strict diet for a few months. Anyway, I just felt like there's all these bacteria going, feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me. Just like they're there in the going, really, it felt like that.
So is that a kindness not to feed them?
Well,
the bacteria, the life forms.
Bacteria are life forms. We're scalding them with our hot drinks and foods. We're freezing them with our cold. We're doing all sorts of things to them every moment of the day.
Gardening as well.
So just, what?
You can't avoid it.
No, you can't avoid it. So send them the good vibes, you know, saying, I'm not going to give you the chocolate, but how about some omni penny horns? Oops, sorry about that. I thought it was.
Or replace them with a better colony of bacteria. You're fine.
Sorry.
That's normally my alarm.
Sound, is it? I got a different sound, obviously, give me alarm. Okay, so this afternoon. I don't waste any time, do I? We will finish on time then. Okay, so yeah, so this mind of attachment, we've spoken a lot about, we continue in our teachings to speak a lot about the mind of attachment, and given that this mind of attachment, why is it so, like, out of the three poisons, that comes always first, in the sense that it propels us into existence, the attachment to existing, to being. Just see how we are to our bodies. Just see how the mind of attachment that gets it wrong desires for the beautiful body, you know, like the TikTok. What are they, fake, or what do you call them? Not quite avatars, but people, I used to say Photoshop, I don't know what you call it now, but they create these images that are fake, which is themselves. I didn't get it at first. I kept going, what? And it's amazing how all these, they were young people, are all so beautiful. Little did I know. Little did I know. So this obsession with that's important, the importance of the body. And that comes from that mind of, if you could say that initially, wanting to be in existence, but then you want to enhance that body by all sorts of things. But many ways. We obsess with our bodies. Even when we're, you know, Dharma practitioners and a little bit older and so forth. And just think, how much time do I think about my body? How much time of the day am I thinking about my body? And so this will always produce suffering. I mean, already the suffering of discontent, the suffering of getting what you want and it not lasting, or not getting what you want, or getting what you don't want. All of that we're aware of. Okay. So, of course, anger. Do I need to say more? Anger. A malice towards sentient beings, towards suffering and phenomena that are the sources of suffering. So, of course, we get it in relation to sentient beings. And if we don't get it, if we don't get any of this, of course, a good reminder is the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, the Shantideva's Bodhisattva's Way of Life chapter on patience, that goes through every possible scenario of anger that you could think of, and the practice of patience as the antidote to that. So, you know, we have these different levels of practice of patience. And again, you've got out in the bookshop, you know, Lama Zopa Rinpoche's book on patience. So when we look at the 6 perfections, and that's looking at the one on patience, these 3 different levels of patience. So the different levels of patience, yes, in regard to others who have harmed, who haven't said thank you, etc., patience towards those. But, and of course, we focus on that one a lot. But what about the patience towards ourselves? Patience towards ourselves in terms of our Dharma practice and study. You know, quit the shoulds, rejoice in what we are doing, and have patience. We're in here for the long haul. The Buddha thought in eons, And there seem to be countless eons. And they seem to be great eons. So they're like immeasurable almost. Or when you think of, every 100 years, you walk past a mountain and the cloak brushes up against the mountain. The time that it takes for that mountain to disappear is a great eon. So it's a lot of time. Maybe environmental factors like wind and so forth are going to help you along. It's not just your cloak. All right. So that patience with ourselves, but here it's like patience with suffering, and in particular, patience with illness in particular. And so one way I find it helpful to think about the patience with illness is that being able to tolerate physical discomfort. I think it's harder with mental illness. I think that's really, I'm just thinking of some Dharma friends who are really challenged by mental illness, and how I find what they do in relation to that is so courageous, like recognizing their needs in terms of their mental health. And I'm talking about serious mental illness and dealing with it so that they can function and give service and all of this. It's, I remember a friend of mine years ago saying, who was chronically physically ill and mentally ill. And she said, the physical is easy. That's easy, dealing with that. But for some of us, even that's not easy. The fact that, well, I have this contaminated body. I asked for it, had an attachment to existing, and it's going to be subject to illness. Even the Dalai Lama got cancer, even, like not immune to these things. It's a body. So patience at that level, and patience, of course, in relation to others, because that's where our anger turns into this road rage example that we got, and wars and so forth. So this acts as a support for not abiding in contact. In other words, I'm going to avoid you at all costs, which might be a good way to prevent that anger arising. I'm not saying it's a bad strategy until I've got the capacity to develop a mind of equanimity, but also for misconduct, like bumping into other people's cars and creating wars and so forth. I mean, just look around the world. Anger, it's so prevalent, isn't it? Everywhere, social media, everywhere. And the sort of, oh, I didn't mean to say that, but you did. But you did. If it wasn't in the mind, it couldn't come out the mouth or on the email or wherever else. It couldn't if it wasn't in your mind. And even the Dalai Lama, he wrote the book Healing Anger because he had to deal with anger in my own mind. You're like, really? Not the Dalai Lama. I think his level of anger is somewhat vastly different to what I might be talking about. Though over time you can see by practicing restraint around anger, looking at it from a karma point of view, looking at it from consequences, looking at it from, well, I don't feel good when I'm angry. Every which way point of view, that then means you engage in restraint to the point that you see over a period of time. If you check back, say, since you met the Dharma, how many instances of anger, well, maybe not how many, because that might be a bit too many to count, but how much has your mind been hijacked by anger? And how is that in relation to how it was before? We look back and go, oh, yeah, I don't have that bank of seething anger about to explode any time. Because that's already a mind out of control, isn't it?
Or when the length of time is shorter.
Yes. Yeah.
So it could be after this stew on it for 3 days. or a day. Still bad.
It's better. It's progress. So we focus on the progress. Oh, good. Now it's only one day. I'm doing well. I've progressed. So we enthuse ourselves to actually delight in the progress we're making. Not perfect, you know, but we're working on it. We are working on it. Regardless of what other people do, we are working on it. And compassion for people who seem, this is the hard one, isn't it? Compassion for those who are so consumed by anger that they're creating the wars and the, you know, political unrest, and they would go on. Every ism, every schism there is. So here it says that aversion or anger arises when something thwarts our desire, we're aware of that, or threatens our self-image. How dare you say that about me? Like I'm beyond reproach. I wouldn't think like that. I wouldn't act like that. How dare you blame me? This thing of the I arises. As soon as any time when the I arises, we know we're in a danger zone. Of course, it's always there, this innate self-grasping. But when it rears its ugly head, that's when we're in danger zone. Me? How dare you say that about? I'm going to get back at you. I'm going to take revenge, and we plot the revenge, blah, blah. We all know anger. So perhaps we can think about the methods that have been helpful in terms of addressing that anger. Like, how do you reduce it from 3 days to 1 day? What sort of methods help to detox the mind of anger? Any ideas? Any suggestions?
Look for early warning signs.
Look for early warning signs, yes. The earlier we can notice the slightest irritation, the very slightest discontent in the mind. Again, this project that I worked on with school kids, it was at Griffith University. It was actually through the theatre department, believe it or not. But it was anti-racism, and then when the money went to anti-bullying, it became an anti-bullying project. But basically it was about recognizing, as these kids, recognizing as soon as possible in their minds when anger arose, not when it's manifest, not when it's emerging, when it's latent. So they looked at these 3 different levels. And it was a peer training. It was fantastic. The year 11s went to year 9, and the year 10s went, you know, they went down like that, down to grade 3. The kids themselves running that, you know, we trained them to run the training. It's fantastic. And I just thought, wow, that program was called, in the end, it was called Cooling Conflicts. I think it was a Swedish model initially, and then to Australia. And it's just like, this was a research project, but I would just put it right in the curriculum, of course, as must do, you know, to learn that you can control your mind while you're young and have that flexibility of the mind and ready to absorb new ideas, new ways, and so forth. So yes, nipping it in the bud and stop it. Just say stop. Just say stop. Visualize a stop sign. Delete.
Talk about angry men or angry boys,
yes,
and teaching boys to deal with anger.
Yeah.
No. But we can all benefit.
We can all benefit.
It doesn't have to be exclusive for.
It's not that girls don't get angry. Yeah.
Girls do get angry, they just don't make it. It's not as overt.
Maybe. Sometimes it might be, but that it's not, it comes out in different ways. It may not be the fisticuffs in the schoolyard. Yeah.
We can all benefit.
Absolutely.
Doesn't just need to be directed at boys.
No, definitely not.
And maybe because the boys, the anger comes out in physical form.
Yeah.
So for the girls, maybe it's bullying, it's teasing.
Yeah,
that
it
type of-
very, I mean, because a lot of the examples that I've seen used in terms of social media, a lot of that's been girls. You can get very
Oh, girls are
nasty,
really bad.
very nasty.
Controlling,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's a different manifestation. And the fact that not, perhaps because those programs don't recognize that is equally dangerous. Yeah. True. Wonder if the boys feel stereotyped. Why don't they have to do it? Why is it just us? Anyway, these programs that we're running, boys, girls, across cultures, across schools, and yeah, we've all got all of these toxic emotions. We've all got them.
The elder abuse that was
Yes. Yeah.
trying to get grandma to hand over the cash.
It's such a, oh, to my mind, it's such a foreign experience, but it happens and happens a lot. So we have bucket loads of different afflicted states of mind, and I just saw the time. So we might, oh, we don't want to leave with anger, do we? We want to leave with so one thing we didn't say, so the two practices, obviously patience, we've talked about, and the other one is cultivating an affectionate love. So the mind of aversion that says, I'm not going to play with you, I don't like you, or whatever, in a, obviously works in a Dharma context of saying, well, or back to the mind of all beings want to be happy. No one wants to suffer. This person's doing the best they can. And by the way, I'm no saint. And, you know, finding in which way I can cultivate affection based on the affection I have already to those who are dear to me. We use the analogy like a mother has for their only child, even if that child they don't necessarily like, but they love them. They might not like what they do, right? Especially when they do naughty things. But it's like this love doesn't stop. So finding the ways in which we can cultivate a sense of affectionate love. And who do we start with? Me, ourselves. Because how much do we get angry at ourselves? Oh, you stupid so-and-so. And we're talking about ourselves. Crazy. I mean, it's true. Okay, we must stop there, or at least I must. So I was looking at the program ahead. We've got one more session at the end. We've got a session at the end of, towards the end of June. And I was thinking the following week, I mean, I'm just floating it out there, it's the week that Geshe Zoka's here. At the moment, because he's giving a talk in the evening, we haven't got the morning session, but we could have the morning session. Shall we? You'll be away the first week in July. Are you away?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm gone.
You've gone. So,
But you carry on without me anyway.
yes, of course, we'll carry on without you.
2 months. Yeah.
So the morning of that first Friday in July, when
yeah.
Geshe is teaching in the evening, are we good to?
Is it okay?
Can't make it
You
that day.
teach
No.
when he's giving a public talk, isn't he? So-
Let's not. Let's keep it as is. All right. Numbers good. Yeah. Okay.
I'd like to.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll have one more. I'm hoping to get through the afflictions. We're not going to go one by one by one by one by one by one, 84,000. No. The 6 root ones, and then we'll just, yes, we'll just keep it to that. Okay. All right. And a lot of homework. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of practice of patience. A lot of homework and love. So, of course, just the announcements that we have the film coming up, Wisdom of Happiness, on the 17th at Lunar. We have, of course, Geshe's Overcoming, and also Ling Rinpoche coming at the end of July. He will be giving Vajrasattva initiation. He'll be teaching on Foundation of All Good Qualities, giving the transmission of chanting the names of Manjushri, and I'm hoping for another little bit more. Let's see what happens there. So how amazing is that? When you think Ling Rinpoche, I know, has been here before. He's the reincarnation of the senior tutor to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So it's sort of, shall I say, right up there. Not that we're being hierarchical, but, you know, amazing, amazing being. So, yes. And our dear friend, Venerable Katsun Kamasundru Yaki, he said, you can call me any of the above. Huh? Yes, I can, actually. I can spell those. He says, whatever people call me. Officially, his full ordination name is Kamasundru, and he shortened it to Ka and Son, Katsun. And then, which one? Kartson. Katsun. And then Yaki is his, I was going to say lay name, but there's a contradiction when you're ordained. I guess legal name, or people still call him that, even though he's been ordained for a very long time. The translator, the translator, he'll be coming to and be translating. So he was at Chenrezig Institute for about 17 years, translating up there, and is now teaching at various places. He's Israeli, so he spent a lot of time in Israel teaching there, but other places as well. He was just at Tashita, actually. Okay, so let's dedicate. Page 8. Kewadi Nyududa Lama Sange Chukune Jowa Chikyamalupa De Salagopa Sho Janchup Sencho Grimpo She Maki Panam Kekuchi Ye Panyampa Me Payang Gongne Gondu Pawa Shu. Page 9. The prayer for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Incomparably kind and supreme Tenzin Gyatso, the wish granting, wish fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, may you have a long life and all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. And I pray for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, peerless teacher, an assembly of the children of the victorious one, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang father and sons, along with the lineage masters, or the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore their armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request, while striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. And the long life prayer for Tenzin Usal Rinpoche, Lord of Dharma, who in accordance with the various dispositions of those to be subdued, makes clear in the light of your well-spoken advice the sacred Ganjan tradition, essence of Buddha's teachings. Foremost and holy Lama, to you who are supreme, we make this prayer of supplication. Lama, please, please live long. Thank you very much. Oh, this one.
recording.